Guys, it's so wonderful to be back at DLD, and I want to talk briefly about the context, because in this session, the double session with Infineon, and then later on with Aldi and with Lidl, we want to put power in the transition. Looking back where we had the wonderful DLD Nature, who was there at DLD Nature? Okay, you will always recall this statement of Ursula von der Leyen: we have to put nature back on the balance sheet. And Johan Rockström, on the next slide, Johan Rockström talked about that we're just in the transition out of this safe operating space for humanity. And what shocked me the most is that nature has been giving us subsidies all the time when we're thinking about where does all the CO2 go. Where it comes from is clear, from fossil carbon, but where is it kept so far? In the ocean sink, in the land sink, in the atmosphere, only part of it. And these storage rooms are full, so nature is not giving us subsidies anymore. So we have to recalculate. And Alessia was mentioning it. AI is a big topic, but it needs energy. It needs electricity. Everybody talks about clouds, computing as if it was something up in the sky. Actually, computing is down to earth. Every semiconductor needs rare materials from earth. Coal, oil, gas, as long as the production of electricity is dirty and not 100% renewable, everything we do with electricity is dirty too. And the consumption of the digital world is climbing rapidly. So we want to focus on what's happening. And I don't know if you're aware of this meme. Climate change will manifest as a series of disasters viewed through phones with footage that gets closer and closer to where you live until you're the one filming it. We behave like the people on the golf course. We are continuing with our game without seeing the obvious. How many of you have seen this movie? Watch it again. It's so true. But we will look not only up, but we will look forward. Future positive, that's the theme of this great conference. And we will be talking about how precious and how fragile this one planet that we're living on is. And we'll talk together with Elke Reichart. We want to know what is really at the core of the computing, because that's where Infineon does a great job. And please welcome Elke Reichart, the Sustainability Vorstand von Infineon. Ecke, we couldn't be more different from the way of education, because I trained as a doctor, and you lived in the Valley for many years. You've been at the board of Hewlett-Packard for more than 25 years. How are you connecting to the fires that are going on while we're talking?
Yeah, of course, the fires you showed picture are in Southern California. But of course, we know people in the area, also in Infineon. We have an office so far. Thank goodness our colleagues are not affected. But they, of course, all our colleagues know somebody who is affected by it. But I was living in Northern California, in the Bay Area, and between 2012 and 2015, there was this big drought. You know, no rain nearly for the years. And I remember that very vividly, because of course, coming from Germany, I had never experienced a period where we have close to zero rain, and to see the effect it has on nature, the lack of rain. But then on the other hand, there were a few days of rain, and it was torrential rain. And also to see, you know, they couldn't cope with it. The infrastructure couldn't cope with the too much water roads were blocked, schools were closed. I remember that very vividly, having 3 children, and we couldn't get them to school. And it was a rain, I would say, we as Germans would have actually absolutely made it to school and to work, etc. But you know, the sewage system were really not able to cope.
So you can relate to that. The catastrophe is coming closer,
Yep.
and you decided to come back to Germany. You joined TUI for their sustainability transformation, and now you're with Infineon. But before we talk about what your big successes are, I want to remind us what you said about the air, the rain, that all of us, human beings, depend much more on nature than nature depends on us.
Absolutely true.
And when I studied medicine, I learned the Bronchialbaum, the tree in the lung, and if you just tip it around, you immediately see this connection, and this is half a tree, half a human being, and you have to look twice until you get which is which. So we are part of nature, we are connected, and when we're talking about connectivity, we always think, oh, am I in the right Wi-Fi? But you say you connect in nature. Well, what does that picture mean to you?
Yeah, my happy zone in nature is on top of the mountain. I love mountain climbing. That's why Munich, of course, is a wonderful destination to be. I think it's probably, when you asked me, you know, in preparation, so what is my connection to nature? So it's probably because being in the mountain is so different from the professional, the vibrant professional life, and then the calmness in the mountain. You know, the rapid change, but then the step by step back to basics, you know, the mental exercise versus the physical exercise. Probably because it's so different, but on the other hand, I think it's also what unites nature or mountain climbing with work is a passion for peak performance.
And you made up to the top of Infineon, which is the destination drive decarbonization and digitalization together.
Yep.
Oftentimes, even at the time of rollback, we think, oh, sustainability is something nice to have. We have a lot of money left over. We can do some projects there, but it's not at the core. But Infineon is different. You say, really, decarbonization is the core of your strategy. Why?
Exactly. So it's both. It's digitalization and decarbonization as an overall company mission, and it's also part of my resort, driving this twin transformation internally. And the reason is because it's, you know, it's a business. It's decarbonization. I think not only, I think as a parent, is the most important task we all have to do. I feel really very intrinsically motivated to drive that further and to leave that planet in a few years, hopefully in a better place than it is right now. But it's also a business. So we, for example, we at Infineon, we supply semiconductors for solar panels, you know, for wind turbines, for electric cars. And I know there is a lot of discussion right now about the future of these technologies, but I can say on a global level, these technologies see a huge adaptation, a huge growth. You know, the installation of photovoltaic was growing by over 60% last year, and we, of course, we supply a big chunk of that, or also wind turbines, more than 40%. Electric vehicles, I know perhaps not in Germany, but globally, still an uptake of over 20% last year.
At the moment, we see the breaking up of really important business partners like the Net Zero Banking Alliance. And America started it, and now some European banks are considering, will we stay together, will we have our own European network? Are you keeping on with that strategy, even if it's not that favorable anymore?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and I'm also really proud to say that Infineon has started that journey to be carbon neutral by 2030, has started that journey in 2019. So really 10 years in advance, and we are well underway. We are already 66% on the way to that, and we will hit, and we will not slow down to hit our goal of really being carbon neutral by 2030. And this year, 2025, we want already to have reduced our carbon emissions by 70, while we have doubled revenue at the same time.
This is so sensational, you have to say this again. I think not everybody got it at the moment. You doubled your profits?
Doubled the revenue, and still we're able to cut our carbon emission so far by 66%, and this year...
2/3 of the carbon emissions?
Yeah, while doubling the revenue.
And now,
I will pass on the thanks and applause to the team who has done that.
Yeah. And you're taking it so serious that when you built your headquarter, this idea that natural changes and disasters are coming closer inspired the architecture and the water around.
Yeah, it's a fantastic campus. Have you been there? Have you
No,
seen
not
it
yet.
live? So it's really, and I'm spoiled, having lived in California. HP had a wonderful campus. Of course, I know the Google campus, I know the Apple campus. Many of you might have seen them. So I was really a bit spoiled from this Californian type campus, and then I came here and I saw this, and it's really fantastic. It's built like a sponge city concept, with surrounded by 7 lakes, and people love, to take a hike after the lunch break, and all this, of course, the lakes are really supplied by. We use the rainwater to fill the lakes and then use it for cooling, but also very interesting because I got as the chief sustainability and digital officer, I got a tour on it. It brought back the original grass, the field, the original soil, and which was a very nutrient-poor soil, and that is, it sounds negative, but it's actually really quite positive, because in age where we use a lot of fertilization, you have very few of these areas, of these grasslands with nutrient-poor soil, and it attracts a certain biodiverse, for plants and animals, and we have brought them back here with that campus.
Yeah, that's an important double crisis. The CO2, we're already understanding it quite well, but the dimension of the biodiversity loss hasn't entered many strategies yet in the same amount. Why are you putting biodiversity also not only on your campus, but also on your mind?
Yeah, because we clearly, admittedly, to reduce our carbon footprint was the top priority. But in the meantime, we look broader from a sustainability point of view. We broaden our perspective and also look at recycling rate of water, recycling rate of waste. We have chemical waste out of our semiconductor production. These are very rare and precious material, and we have already more than 60% recycling rate also on our chemical waste.
Oftentimes, at the core on the board, people agree on the strategy, but it's also important to take all the employees on the journey. How do you do this?
I think, first of all, we talk. We regularly update about our progress. And, I think one point our colleagues are hugely proud on is what we call our decarbonization multiplier. Because so we are in a very privileged position that we build products that help save carbon emission at our customer side, and we calculate that. And we have come up with this formula. We say, of course, on the one hand, of course, our products, they generate emissions during their production, but then they also help save emissions at our customers. So all the semiconductors that go into electric vehicles, that go into photovoltaic panels, into solar panels, all our semiconductors that go into wind turbines. And the formula is, our net positive effect is a factor of 45. So our products save 45 times more emissions than are generated during their production. And that was up from 34 last year. And this is something, of course, we share with our colleagues very regularly, and that makes them very proud. And to be able to work on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, we were always looking back on the supply chain and stuff, but we don't look enough forward.
Exactly.
future positive, the changes that you make with your technology to your customers.
Exactly, yeah.
Where does the heat go? Because we know servers use up a lot of energy, mainly electricity, and electricity, if it goes through a wire, is pure physics. It generates heat. We remember the old light bulbs, but you have a huge problem in the server farming with where does the heat go?
Absolutely, and this is why I also, what you asked earlier, why I absolutely can't get my head around why we see a defocus in some area on decarbonization, because if we don't manage the heat and the energy, compute performance will be determined by how well we manage that energy efficiency. And so if we don't do it well, it might even limit our possibilities of digitalization, of innovation through AI. And that's exactly one of our sweet spots, our power electronics, that help, on the one hand, that they help to minimize the heat that is generated in the first place. But there's always some heat, also we can't avoid, even with the best chip design and material, but then how you dissipate that heat, how you reduce the remaining heat. That is another of our formula that we build in how we package our chips. And we have calculated if all AI centers would only use Infineon chips, we would already be able to save 22 million tons of CO2 every year, which is the equivalent of 7.5 million combustion cars, their emissions every year.
And you don't even need a new nuclear plant to do this?
No, just put Infineon chips inside your
Some
AI.
jokes are just for 10% of the audience, but you got it. Thank you.
And honestly, we get the big AI chip companies we partner with, they recognize it. So we will already double our revenue in that segment and quadruple in the next 2 years, because we are now seen as really helping in that area.
Talking about heat, this is one of the main concerns when you talk about the medical connection to the climate crisis, catastrophe, whatever you call it, because every one of you has witnessed when you are on the beach, on a vacation, and your mobile phone is in the sun, it gives you a warning. But why is nobody listening to the warning that our brain is telling us when we're overheating? What you're talking about in the server farming is a human issue. And I did this picture, 42 degrees Celsius is 112. That's like the emergency call for the ambulance, because proteins change their structure at 42 degrees, and we're biological beings. There's no way we can buy ourselves out of this simple equation. There's no way we can adapt to heat on the long run. And this is something, when we're talking about the costs of inaction, that is always overlooked. That we're thinking, oh, can we afford sustainability? The question should be just the other way around. What is the cost if we carry on like this? And this means productivity slows down, aggression goes up. You have more people suffering from mental illnesses. Mental health is a huge problem now in many companies, and it's directly related to heat and to the intake of particulate matter, to Feinstaub. We have all the studies now, and this is one of the striking examples that we can even measure, that hate mails go up in the hot summer days, yeah? So the human brain is everything that we're using right now, and it's so vulnerable to heat. So,
which is interesting, because that's even a parallel to artificial intelligence, because even there, these heat problems, and there are, I think, you will probably all follow some articles in the press recently, it's really becoming really a design challenge.
To end on a positive note, this is my favorite picture for the cradle-to-cradle idea. Why are the butterflies interested in the eye of the turtle? Who knows? Any suggestions? The salt, yes. This is a perfect picture of how nature uses things in a circular way. Because minerals, like the minerals you're using for the semiconductors, are rare. They're precious. And the salt is contained in the tear of the turtle, and the butterfly has adapted to using this for their own supply.
Perfect.
How does cradle-to-cradle ideas enter your production?
Yeah, I think that the circular economy is something that is for us also part of our next. We are already now using 25 to think what do we do beyond 2030. Not that we wait until 2030, but what is really next up after being carbon neutral. And this reusability, circular economy is exactly is next on the list, so to speak. Yeah.
How do you recharge? We call this talk passion, because when we were having the briefing, I felt that you're really passionate for this. Many people are quite desperate when you talk to them on a personal level about all the things that are going not in the right direction, but we're having this backlash in many areas. What is your secret to share with us? How do you regenerate your passion?
I talk to my kids, who absolutely, I think, as a parent and manager, being able really to work on sustainability. This is for me very intrinsically motivating, and then I connect to nature regularly to bring me back to the roots, and that's what we really want to conserve, and to the beauty of nature.
So, thank you very much, Elke, and thank you on behalf of DLD that you're supporting this great conference and for many years, and that you're continuing to put this urgent topic for all of us on the agenda. Thank you very much, Elke.
My pleasure. Thank you, Eckart.